So
Thank you. Amazing.
yes, thank you, Peter.
Yes. How's the life of a chemist is going to change with this type of software and the evolution of our software?
I think it's going to change pretty dramatically and go deeper into the comfort of the prompt window. So currently, medicinal chemists have to spend enormous amounts of time with specialist tools and also just going through trial and error, synthesizing and testing the molecules continuously. Now with the adoption of foundation models that are also fine-tuned for drug discovery, they'll be able to do it from the comfort of their home. Why it was so important? Because we actually did try to reach out to several AI model developers previously. And many of them, like including the absolute top ones who are household names, top ones, they have a very strange structure right now. Some of them who are working on foundational model development are very separated from the ones that are working on science. And the grinding is very different, right? So the scale, the pace, are very easy to overlook very important potential collaborations. And what you guys have is the integrated, kind of fully integrated, absolutely amazing AI team that works at high, you grind, and at the same time you look for opportunities to change the world and try to compete with the, Goliaths of the world, and you do it very successfully. So that's why that introduction was so important, because you at from one perspective have the capability of most of the foundation model developers at the cutting edge, and at the same time you've got the flexibility to go domain specific
100%.
very deeply, and that's why we were so excited. So now let's go to the prompt window, to the playground, where we've deployed the liquid reinforced model. And one of the tasks that is very important for drug discovery is estimating the intrinsic clearance in human hepatocytes for any compound. So now let's try to do this. So we'll focus on predicting one key ADMET property for a very important kinase inhibitor, red kinase inhibitor. So, and we'll try to predict its intrinsic clearance in human hepatocytes. So the true experimental value for this compound, if you do an experiment, it's 68. Now we're going to go to ChatGPT and give it a SMILE string representation, text-based representation of a molecule. And as you can see, it provides a very lengthy explanation and a lot of caveats, and lands on a very rough estimate of 15. So now let's run the same prompt through Liquid that has been reinforced and fine-tuned using MMAI Gym. And now we're getting a direct prediction of 47. And it's worth mentioning that we've trained the model directly on the standard units of each parameter. And you can see that not only does Liquid cut through the fluff, but it also provided the value that is much closer to the true experimental reality than ChatGPT. And now let's do another one. So we'll try to show you the step-by-step retrosynthesis task testing benchmarking. So one of the main tasks in drug discovery is to see if the molecule can be synthesized and tested. Many molecules are very, very difficult to synthesize. So, and when medicinal chemists work, or drug hunters work with molecules, they usually do not work with the molecules that have been already synthesized. You are designing a molecule with the new properties, and very often the synthetic route is not available. So here we will show the single-step retrosynthesis task, so how easy the molecule it is to synthesize in a single task, single step. And we will do the out-of-distribution set that we released to show the real use case for medicinal chemistry. So here
let's first test ChatGPT. So we'll give it a prompt and see if it can predict the synthetic route for the molecule. And you can see that it's not exactly correct. So it gives you a lot of broken smiles and also some weird symbols pointing up here. And now let's run the exact same prompt through Liquid after MMAI fine-tuning. And you can see that it gives you a plausible result, and now it visualizes it as well, which is super cool. So you can actually deploy it in the playground of your pharmaceutical company, and it should work. These results are extremely impressive, right? On 2.6B beating SOTA in multiple tasks, that is something that we did not expect. Talking about production readiness, I think that for some of those tasks, we might be able to sell it to pharma. Usually, they would want to have more tasks in one place with more validation. This is a very good result that will definitely get us in the door. So to be able to talk to the teams. What I'm afraid of, and also what I'm hoping for, is that by the time we start talking to them, we will have a 24B model.
That's true.
For everybody who is listening, why don't you tell us a little bit about Liquid approach and like how Liquid AI is different from OpenAI?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you know, like you mentioned it, we are a foundation model company. We build all the tech related to like building a generative AI solution, from scratch. We look into like what should be the architecture of the models, what should be basically the data efforts around it, and then building it up, and then all the algorithms to go pre-training, post-training, and then deployment, basically. Now, the differentiation here is that the focus of our company is on efficient AI. We have been working on efficiency of computation. Why this matters? Because if you think about like where the world is, like there's a lot of investment going into building data centers and stuff. Why do we need that? Because for AI to be like for really getting the best versions of AIs, you need to have best versions of computers. And to have the best version of computer, you need a lot of energy. We don't have that much energy that is spent. So efficient computation becomes extremely important. And then you need to use all sort of resources in the world to be able to capture that efficiency, right? Our approach was to systematically look into, so all these generative AI solutions as well, they are all built on top of an architecture called transformers, right? Transformers is like the cornerstone of all of these things. Why? Because transformers allow you to have like unstructured computation. You have matrix multiplication, and you can take matrix multiplication and scale it, right? And this is why transformers are so beautiful, because they're so unstructured. The problem with transformers, as we mentioned, is like they're very energy hungry, right? Like they're spending like quadratically, like more computational kind of, they have quadratic computational footprint, and that kind of blocks us from like advancing kind of to getting to that kind of level of intelligence that we want to get. We thought that let's not put a bet like 99% of the world that are putting on the transformer architecture. Let's put a bet on a systematic approach, not just on a single architecture, but on alternative kind of methods. Why did we think about that? Because we are also ourselves coming from a background of like looking into biology and looking into physics and get inspirations from there to build more efficient computer algorithms, right? This became like the core architecture that was like part of myself and my team's work at MIT, that we've been working on liquid neural networks, right? Liquid for flexibility, paper, yeah. Right? So the liquid idea was one inspiration from all the potential kind of computational blocks that you can build for building intelligent solutions. Again, we don't want to put a bet on a single architecture. So what we built at Liquid AI was building kind of a meta algorithm that allows us to systematically search through all the operators that are interesting to build a general purpose computer, and then find out what should be the computational graph for a given hardware that you want to host this AI model on, that gives you the best memory footprint, the lowest basically memory footprint, the lowest latency footprint, and the highest speed, while do not sacrificing quality. So this way you can systematically, this meta AI system is a search-based system that allows you to get into custom architectural kind of graphs that are very, very powerful, but at the same time extremely efficient as well. And you cannot go better than this, you know, in terms of like getting to these models. Then this format of efficient computation can be used for many, many different things. For example, the focus of our company as a whole has been always on bringing intelligence into devices. You know, the whole world of devices is very interesting because 99% of processors in the world are outside of data centers. So we've been talking about always bringing intelligence, the most advanced type of intelligence in the cloud, you know, as OpenAIs of the world and Anthropics of the world are doing. But there's a dismissal of whatever that is happening outside of data centers, you know. And why the outside data centers is important, because you have matters of privacy. You know, you want to deploy something local for yourself. For example, in pharmaceuticals, as you know, like data is king, right? Data is the most important thing. And then you cannot share your IP. IP is extremely important. So local solution, private solutions in critical kind of places, government, security kind of places, then you're talking about like bringing intelligence to, let's say, laptops, on bringing intelligence to phones, to devices, you know, like to all sort of PCs and cars, you know. Watches, right? Like wearables, you know, like in general. And these are kind of the places where we thought, because we have efficient architectures and we can maximize the quality of these models that we are building to the level that they can compete with the cloud kind of quality on a specialized application, when you specialize them, you know, with techniques, some of the techniques like you are experts of, you know, the gym that you guys developed. Because of this specialization, you can open up a whole another market and opportunity for on-device AI, you know, like device foundation models, this is what we say, for specialized applications in many, many different domains. One of those extremely exciting domains is AI for science, right? You want to specialize AIs like for scientific kind of discovery, you know, having this core technology that is fundamentally more efficient and fundamentally reliable, I would say, you know, and it's trainable to actually be good in a certain kind of domain. That motivated me to really like explore this thing. So I love the fact that, as I said, like for me, the appreciation point was the fact that how well versed you are in this kind of universe, that you could use a foundation model partner as well, that together we can actually do something meaningful, so something revolutionary. And
that is bingo, right? Yeah, you just nailed it. So, and I love the word reliable. Yes. Your models are highly reliable, and they actually don't forget as much as some of the other models we've tried, right?
Yes.
So they actually are very, very resilient to RL.
Yeah, and to that point, I want to also ask you, like, to say a couple of words, like, how is it that you know so much about AI? First of all, how is it that, give me a little bit of background. How did you build this Insilico? You know, like to the point, like maybe shorter, but how did you build the company so that you guys have like this amazing kind of understanding of what should be going into a design of an AI system, or what is needed from the data efforts, from the algorithmic aspect of intelligence that is needed to go into building like something meaningful in the AI for science kind of category?
Sure. So that kind of stems from also my background a little bit. So I started my career in GPU computing.
Wow.
So I was working for ATI before it got acquired by AMD. So made some money and decided to go into the very, very important area of human development, which is longevity, so aging research. I don't think that there is anything more important than aging research. In 2014, we started Insilico out of the NVIDIA GTC conference. So one of my buddies invited me to present some fun work on deep learning for biomarker development and the kind of aging biomarker, and that's how we started. So we actually started at the cusp of the deep learning revolution as an AI company. So in the kind of early days, we were inspired by, you know, Karpathy and Goodfellow and of course Benjo and LeCun. So we were grinding every paper that came out in deep learning and trying to apply it to drug discovery. But we were a pure play for AI, and we were originally very focused on GANs and adversarial autoencoders, variational autoencoders for kind of molecular imagination, trying to identify, generate molecular structures with the desired properties, generate synthetic biological data with the desired properties. Collaborated with pharma companies, and then we realized that around maybe like 2019, we realized that as an AI company, unless you actually have the experimental base, you can synthesize and test the molecule, you will never be able to get to the level where you can make serious, meaningful, tangible impact on the field, just because there is so little we know about biology and chemistry that AI doesn't have much to train from. And it cannot go from first principles. Otherwise, you need to simulate the world on a quantum level, and even then you are not going to get precision. So we realized, okay, we need to pull a trigger and do our own, make our own drugs. And then we developed our own pipeline, and we realized that now we are more of a drug discovery company. When investors or partners look at us, they see a biotech, right, Insilico Medicine. But just the background is AI. So we realized that in the future, because of the scaling, we don't want to compete on scaling. It's impossible for us because you can either do frontier foundation AI that scales, and everybody is so focused on transformers, and diffusion and some mixture of experts. So it's basically they forget that you need to pause at some point in time and test it and see if it's capable in very specific applications. And in most of those applications, foundation models suck. So we realized that, okay, we're going to focus on smaller models, very specialized, physics-based, generative, experimentally validated, and very rapidly generated so much experimental data, experimental validation data, that we could use it for benchmarks. And we realized, well, why don't we actually now go from a fighter, MMA fighter, to an MMAI coach? So we thought that it is impossible to train the foundation model to do, let's say, some very crazy physics-based tasks, right? Docking, like quantum simulations. It's very, very difficult, as you know, especially in text, right? To go explain to the model that this particular, quantum dot has certain properties and it jumps.
Yes. Yes.
Extremely difficult, but turns out that you could actually reduce the dimensionality and do that. We were like, whoa, about this time last year. So started working on the gym to help foundation model developers get there. And then we realized that most foundation model developers, they're again more about scaling than about intelligence on the fundamental AI research.
Yep.
And that's where we met you.
Yep.
And that's where we started collaborating. So that was kind of, again, the aha moment for us. We realized, okay, somebody is actually trying to make the models smaller, more efficient, more intelligent without just raw scaling.
Exactly.
And for us, it's very, very compatible. So we really love working with you on that. But most importantly is that, again, we came out of the AI world, so we kind of took this entire journey. Now we realize that the experimental evidence is what makes all the difference. You actually need to be able to create kind of virtual prospective validation experiments from your real experiments. So imagine that you discovered the drug. Usually when you identify a protein target that's kind of criminal that causes a disease, there is like many of them in the body. So you don't know which one is driving the disease. So you try to catch one, try to disable it with a molecule. So you need to generate the molecular structure, either the antibody or a small molecule like aspirin, something that you can buy in the store. So for most people who don't understand chemistry, who are watching us, you basically can generate a molecule that can disable that criminal, and then you basically need to synthesize it. You need to make the molecule, make the protein, test it, and that's your first date with the molecule. It's actually not even the first date. It's somebody you saw on Facebook before you even engaged. So most folks who go from AI to drug discovery, they don't understand many steps. Like, for example, many people like to talk about Google AlphaFold as something that will absolutely transform drug discovery. In our experience, AlphaFold may be like the ability to turn a protein sequence into structure and then understand how the structure operates. It's like 1% of the drug discovery tasks. Most of the time, you actually don't use it, because if you are to pull the trigger on your own internal drug discovery program, you actually are better off making the real crystal. Mm-hmm. And then after you synthesize the molecule and test it with the protein, you do another crystal. Why? Because it's $50,000 in 3 to 4 weeks. If you are planning to invest $100 million in the program, and you are planning to commit your life, 10 years of your life, to actually follow with this program, you're better off with a real crystal. And very often you actually skip the AlphaFold part. So what we do at Insilico, just to create this kind of virtual benchmarking workflow, we actually have to run our own programs. So you identify the protein that is driving the disease, this criminal that is making us sick. Very difficult task, very risky. 99.99% failure rate. Most of the time you got the wrong one. If you got the right one, generate a small molecule which disables it. Just synthesizing this molecule and testing it with a protein, that's your first date with a molecule. After that, you need to do many, many, many more dates until you get married. And usually it's like $50 million later, you realize that maybe even that ends up in a divorce. So as you are progressing with those experiments, you build up the data set, and we realized within one experiment for one program, from 0 to this point that we call developmental candidate, preclinical candidate, mm-hmm. after which you're moving with the speed of traffic. It's very regulated. You start human clinical trials. So from 0 to PCC, we can generate about 1.1 to 1.2 thousand benchmarks. That is an incredible number of benchmarks. And now if you want to use a foundation model to generate a molecule and see how it performs in terms of predictive or generative tasks, you can use our proprietary data to kind of create this virtual walkthrough. And without having many of those, you won't even be able to see if you can get to the first base, right? To the first stage of drug discovery. And the guys who I think figured it out to some extent is Google. So you can see that after so many years doing AlphaFold and other things, they decided to set up their own company called Isomorphic Labs, mm-hmm. to actually run real experiments to be able to build up the expertise in testing. And I really wish them well, and I really respect the guys and girls working there. However, the level of efficiency that we have and we established for running those programs is second to none. We even had to go to China and outcompete everybody in China. Wow. And that's like hardcore. China gym is the most brutal, yes. and punishing. So we managed to set a few drug discovery benchmarks that I don't know anybody who managed to beat us on time, speed, cost, and probability of success so far, and also within our level of novelty. So that kind of converted us from an AI company to a drug discovery company, kind of in yang, and we realized that we lost the ability to make our own foundation models. Mm-hmm. And that's where companies like Liquid, and I don't know many, like how many competitors do you have in this field?
Well, I mean, they're the guys who are like experimentally building open source models, yeah. for the community kind of efforts.
They're all in China now.
That's true.
Do you have any here
in the US? I mean, we don't have that many.
Yeah.
Like that they are doing like contributing to the scientific kind of aspects of it,
yeah.
And open sourcing and doing it. There are not that many.
Yeah. So
bringing a foundation model company like us,
yes.
together with you guys, what's the impact? What can we generate together? And what are we trying to actually achieve? And why are we doing it?
So one of the reasons why this collaboration is super important is that I think it's the first time in human history when we try to teach a foundation model most of the tasks that a medicinal chemist and a computational biologist and a biologist can do using specialized tools. So previously, many of those tasks had to be done by specialist tools that actually don't work very well. They work state of art, but so far nothing works perfectly well. There is no quote-unquote pharma AI god. We came as close as possible to this kind of AI deity with many different tools that we had to separate. Some of them are physics-based, some of them are based on text, on imaging, on many, many data types. Some of them are looking at longitudinal data, some of them are very, very, very quick and just simple linear regression tasks. Can we bring all of that into one super intelligent model that can perform many of those tasks and then go also out of scope and go zero shot?
What are those tasks?
So some of the very primitive tasks that medicinal chemists would love and computational chemists, for example, like docking.
Okay.
Can this molecule dock in a specific protein?
And the answer is yes and no.
Well, usually you look for binding affinity for strength.
So
it'll be
it's like
gradient.
a score.
Yeah, so it'll be a score.
What else?
Then, for example, toxicity.
Mm-hmm.
So toxicity is why many of the really good drugs die. And there are many, many, many different scores for toxicity. You need to see if your molecule binds to your specific protein of interest and nothing else. So you need to actually score at which concentration this molecule will bind to something that will cause toxicity. And it will always bind to something at some concentration. So you need to figure out how to predict these values.
Is this called ADMET?
Yes, exactly.
Can you tell
ADMET, yeah. So
ADMET,
that is,
I see, this is
yeah,
how you
ADMET.
say it.
So
Yes.
that's the absorption, distribution, metabolism, excretion, toxicity tasks. Yeah.
And all of these things, they have like their own tests, like these aspects, like distribution. There are like a couple of kind of, you can have like specialized models that are actually checking properties of distribution. Is that correct?
So for
toxicity.
for every one of those, like ADMET, you will have for every letter, you will have a few hundred different scores. Some of those scores are more important, some of them are less important. And for many of those scores, there are predictive models that do a reasonable job predicting those values. Most of them are unpredictable completely. And then you can also generate molecules with the desired properties that fit into those kind of perfect molecule, perfect drug criteria according to many scores. You can get there with specialized models today, not perfectly, but most of the time.
Yes.
Now we can do it with a foundation model.
Foundation models, exactly. So the whole thing was that for each of these individual predictive machine learning solutions that exist for these tests, or let's say predictive models that is needed to be done, is this part of the process of drug discovery? Like, is it like a mandatory thing that you need to go through all these tests, or these are like custom-made tests? Like, how does this test like contribute to the quality of a drug, or are these like these processes, like every pharmaceutical on the planet would actually run these tests and stuff like before commercializing a drug or building a drug? Like, can you tell me a little bit more about that?
So it depends. Most of the time, when you are starting a new drug discovery program, you would want to have all of those scores to happen before you even do anything experimental. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, most of the time it doesn't work like this. So in order for you to achieve certain scores in later stage experiments, you actually need to perform some experiments. So it doesn't come from just a molecular structure. You first synthesize, do something, get the experimental data, put it back into a specialist model, predict the next step. Mm-hmm. So that is kind of the usual process of drug discovery. Very often, and unfortunately, we're at the mercy of scientific serendipity. So very often you are not expecting something, you do the test anyway, and you're like, and it works. And that's how most of the drugs that had significant life-changing potential for humanity, is how they got discovered, including penicillin by Alexander Fleming. So it was a scientific serendipity, and many, many others. So you cannot discount scientific serendipity, but you can try to organize all of those tests into a workflow that will help you scale up the process, increase the chances of success,
and do it faster.
And do it faster and in a more kind of organized fashion than trying to do trial and error all the time.
Got it.
Trial and error, we also do that quite a bit. We have a massive automated laboratory, one huge building, one lab where robots do the experiments. Very often we let them go into kind of crazy mode to do whatever they like in order to try to see if we can identify some serendipitous discoveries. Would love to host you in my lab. Let's have a handshake. So I wanna see you in my lab.
Yes.
However, with those scoring systems, and with those paradigms where we're trying to describe a perfect drug to an AI system, or when medicinal chemists talk to each other, they would kind of create a profile of your perfect molecule. There are ways to turn it into more exact science, and that's why we've got those scores. So how do you evaluate if the human is perfect? Like, how do you score if a person is good or bad?
You send them to a shrink.
Well, you can actually score their impact. Are they toxic? Are they impactful? Are they generating useful stuff for the humanity? Did they reproduce? Is it a good thing or a bad thing? I'm not sure. Did they teach somebody something? So there are many scores for molecules that follow the same kind of rationale.
And then, so what's the benefit of, I understand like for each of these specialized kind of things, special tests, there is a kind of a machine learning, could be a predictive classical machine learning solution there. What's the benefit of having one model to rule all of those tests out? So.
You just asked an absolutely amazing, very important question, because that's why I'm doing this and why we decided to actually go from specialist models to foundation models. One big reason for doing this is convenience. So if you need 1,000 different specialist tools to perform a drug discovery task, to identify a good drug, many of those tools will be in the hands of very specialist people. Some of them will be used by biologists, some of them will be used by medicinal chemists, clinical experts, and many completely disconnected people. In the pharmaceutical industry, we even had to specialize our own software so that biologists can buy biology software and chemists don't want it. Some of them, they want it, but they cannot get it because the biology department has the budget. So it's very disconnected. And if you can offer all of those tools from the comfort of your prompt window, where you do your regular things like search, and at the same time you can do molecular generation, prediction of molecular properties, life modeling, folding, docking, everything in one place, it just creates it creates a perfect environment for deployment for everybody. So you can democratize, you shorten the learning curve, and you basically bridge the gap between what is frontier right now and the level of expertise you need to be able to have in order to discover a drug to everybody, to something that your assistant in the office who is maybe trained to do office management tasks can do drug discovery. That is amazing. Now imagine that we'll lower the bar for drug discovery to the level where anyone can do it. We can now start pushing the frontier on basically how to increase the novelty, how to go into different therapeutic modalities that people have not encountered yet. So I think that more traditional, very mundane tasks in drug discovery that require specialist labor, they should be democratized, and they should be compressed into foundation models. So what you are doing right now with Liquid and us, you're basically changing the world by democratizing very specialist tasks that require decades to master, and then sometimes years to remaster. Because once what I realized is that if I, inside my company, develop a specialized AI tool that is like state of art and at many tasks, and I put an interface on it, it will take a few months before people start adopting it. Some of them, they won't even do it because they think that the current way of doing things is still efficient. And it is. But how do we go to the next level? We need to be able to democratize and put the playing field, broaden the playing field, and also ensure that we can now focus on pushing the frontier of science out instead of trying to get people up to speed with what just happened in the past 3 years.
You say hundreds of different tests, like a specialized test has to be performed throughout this process of drug discovery. And then, so that sounds like there has to be like a massive model, a gigantic kind of AI model. Like if we want to bring all of these experiences and being able to chat with it, bringing the biologists and chemists and everybody working together, like to be able to have like one framework, one model that can do all of those tests and not even sacrificing quality to get them like to the quality that is actually matters, that they can truly use this as a realistic kind of tool for accelerating kind of the drug discovery process or for improving their test performances or everything. This sounds like the model that you have to use has to be like a giant, elaborate kind of a big model, And then the first thought that actually comes to mind is like, can the, let's say, general purpose AIs that we have today, for example, like GPT 5.2 or Gemini, the latest Gemini models or the latest Claude models, how are they performing like on these type of, how are they performing? And then it comes, like it becomes very counterintuitive. Like first of all, like tell me a little bit about like how are they performing on these tests today?
Amazing question, because the first thing we did was to develop a set of benchmarks for foundation models and also for our specialist tools and test every frontier foundation model.
To see how they perform. And how are they?
They suck. They suck so badly.
Okay.
They suck so badly you cannot even imagine.
I see.
So for a drug hunter, whenever they are utilizing any tool, if they test it in one of their favorite tasks and it performs poorly, they will actually lose trust in the model completely. And even if you are looking at benchmarks, at like just a heat map of benchmarks for any of the models, usually for a professional medicinal chemist, if some of those tasks are not green, like if some of them are yellow and some are red, so meaning that the model is not performing well in like very basic kind of base set of ADMET benchmarks, they will not use it. And they will actually not even trust the model in the tasks where it was green. So that is why you need to demonstrate that in many of those tasks you are state of art or state of art plus, or just make sure that the set of tasks that you are providing to the medicinal chemist or to biologist or to a clinician, you only select those where the model performs extremely well and give them the ability to work with those models. Otherwise, they immediately lose trust, they stop using the model, and they will actually slow down the rate of adoption of AI. And that is my problem with those large models right now, is that most of them are really good at general reasoning.
nowadays with RAG, with retrieval augmented generation, with search, with many techniques, agentic techniques that they have put in and accelerated, you feel like you got superpowers, and in some areas you actually do get that in coding. However, in drug discovery, they all suck so badly. And what we realized is that when we take a liquid model, reinforce it, so SFT, RFT it to the level where the medicinal chemist would be comfortable, we actually see that there is still a lot of room to reinforce it at many other tasks. So you don't have catastrophic forgetting quickly, or you don't get significant reduction in capabilities as you reinforce. So you actually have really good architecture. We still are yet to explore the limits.
Yes.
And I hope that even like with 24B models, you would be able to compress maybe most of the drug discovery tasks in your model.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, so what is needed basically is getting it to, you have to specialize the models, right? Like you're saying, like the general purpose models, the cloud models, they're not good at these kind of tests. Obviously, you need to specialize these models, and there's a huge kind of opportunity here to build like these foundation model kind of technologies that are kind of specialized in that drug discovery kind of process. And that foundation model is something that we built together, right? This is basically the most counterintuitive thing for me was that like with the RL environment that you guys created and with the base foundation model of a 2.6 billion parameter model, it's just a tiny model that can run on any phone today, like with that kind of model, we brought the performance of this on these tests, or a range of these tests, some of them to the state of the art, some of them to that they're like, beating like models like that are like proprietary models like in the cloud, and some of them are like beating the specialized test as well, like with a tiny model. Is that counterintuitive? Is that something that you expected to happen, or how do you feel about that?
I did not expect it to happen at all. I thought that we would be able to get to at least the level of reasonable performance, right? So my problem with many of those models that you can access from the comfort of your prompt window is that they just don't work on drug discovery tasks at all. So you get like absolutely random results. In some cases, you cannot even test. So there is no chance for you to even benchmark it. It's not capable of a task. I was very surprised that when we worked with Liquid, that your model started not only performing at reasonable level, so we were expecting to see maybe reasonable performance in some tasks as highly experimental, just to prove the point. But the fact that it started outperforming specialist models, that was very surprising. And I think that actually opens up a completely new area of research in AI, where we should look deeper into multimodality and also synergies between the different tasks. So we see that as you fine-tune the model on specific set of tasks, becomes more capable and synergetic tasks. And in some areas, you actually forget some of the tasks. So you need to do the replay and refresh the model's capabilities. I think on larger models, maybe we would be able to avoid that because you've got mixture of experts. You can just fine-tune a part of the model, so do some lobotomy in some places. With our experience with you, we actually, I think, uncovered a completely new area of research. And over time, I'm pretty sure we would be able to even build AI models that will help you with that research, kind of do meta learning on fine-tuning for specific scientific tasks. That would be a really cool thing to do. So if anybody is listening who is like a NeurIPS reviewer, give us a chance.
I wanted to ask you about this as well. So like this model is like extremely tiny.
Yeah.
Even the 24B model that we would release, you can actually pack it inside a box and even like serve it kind of locally. Right?
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you, how sensitive is it, like the data and the privacy of data for the pharmaceuticals? So is there kind of any limitations of hosting something on the cloud for them, like, and accessing like cloud? Is there IP that has to be protected, and how sensitive is this data that is processing? So does that impact also our commercialization, for example? Because if we can provide, if you have a 2.6 billion parameter model or even a 24 billion parameter model, you can host it on a box, on a compute, exactly. So you can bring it basically like to your labs and host it over there. So how does that look like privacy? Is that an issue here that we need to be?
Usually for pharma companies, everything is a huge issue in terms of privacy, in terms of hosting, in terms of data. So that's the most sensitive industry on the planet in terms of intellectual property. That is why if a pharmaceutical company is working with a large foundation model that is hosting everything on the cloud, they usually would be extremely careful about what gets sent to this model. And there are internal regulations for that. Many of them are not following them nowadays, which is actually very strange. So they would send all kinds of stuff to ChatGPT. But at Insilico, for example, we also have to operate as a pharma company, even like more compliant. That's why we developed our own playground, where we ensure that every model that goes in is operating in a private environment, and it doesn't leak anything anywhere, or it's not possible to run like OpenClaw on those machines. So
yeah, that makes
you can go nuts. So with liquid networks, the beauty of your models that they're like small, they're easy to run on anything, and you can deploy them privately, but you can also deploy them on the cloud.
Yeah, so Alex, like the lead time for drug discovery is like 8 to 10 years, Is our technology going to contribute to that?
I think that it's going to be pretty game-changing, not only for the time it takes to discover and develop a drug, because currently the computational efforts that we have to go through to discover and develop a drug are already pretty short. What this technology will allow people to achieve is scale. So if you can have many of the drug discovery tasks that are essential for the process from the comfort of your prompt window, where you can very rapidly debate with your AI expert and bounce ideas. First of all, we're likely to improve the probability of success. We're likely to just increase the novelty of some of those ideas and increase the sheer scale and number of those ideas. So I hope that with this technology, it's not only about the time, it's also about the number of bets that we can make within this time. Because at the end of the day, drug discovery is also a very regulated territory. It's the most regulated area of human development. So very often you can go from 0 to 100 very quickly, but then you are moving with the speed of traffic. So the question here is about how do we develop a better drug, not how to and how do we make many or more of those drugs, not about how to shorten the time, because much of that is regulated. Now that we've collaborated and demonstrated the proof of concept, and now we can scale and maybe go to market. Not maybe go to market, we are going to go to market.
Yes.
We're going to make some money. It's important to make some money in order to fuel the insatiable demands of AI. In your opinion, where are you going to be with liquid networks in the next 2 to 3 years? Like, what's the direction?
Yeah, absolutely. So the way I look at the industry as a whole is like basically layered, So if you look at the whole AI landscape, put data aside, a specialization aside, you have the silicon layer, you have the hardware layer, people that are building hardware. On top of that sits foundation models. On top of that is agentic layer. And after that is impact, right? Like this is basically how I developed this stack. Now, we are sitting at the foundation model layer, right? We want to get ourselves as close as possible to the silicon so that the next generation of silicon, the next generation of hardware that is getting out there, it actually already has elements of liquid foundation models on it, and it is kind of so optimized that you actually would take a device and you already take it for granted that liquid foundation models are actually the type of models that you have to use on this device if you want to achieve maximum efficiency.
So do you see a near future where we can do drug discovery on a chip?
Well, it definitely going to happen in the future.
How fast?
Well, we will see, because we have to see like what kind of new capabilities are getting added to the silicon as well, right? But I can totally see that space. This is like the place algorithmically. We are thinking very much into like maximizing the amount of efficiencies that you can get out of a given silicon.
Yeah.
And that to the point that we would even inform the next generation of silicon in the world, right?
Oh, so that's super cool.
Yeah, so I mean that should be the direction. That's a direction that Liquid is taking. You know, that's on the efficiency side. On the quality front, there are also like novel algorithms that are coming out. For example, like better reinforcement learning pipelines, like the ones that you guys are designing. You know, data informed kind of environments that are richer. With those kind of algorithms, we would be able to also do better specialist models, you know, general purpose, but specialist kind of models, like the one that we are releasing today. So, and enabling that AI for science in terms of quality of the models as well.
Yeah. Do you see a future where you can go like FPGA or something like that?
From the FPGAs to ASIC, right?
Yeah.
Like you design with the FPGAs like new type of ways that kernels should actually work with each other.
Yeah.
More efficient kind of. And at the same time, like ultimately what we were thinking, Liquid was designed after adaptable computation. You know? So we want the algorithms to be also adaptable, you know.
But that's what I was like kind of thinking with FPGA idea, right? So if we actually RFT, SFT your models and we want to continue improving on silicon, if we were to do it on a kind of an FPGA manner, like I've been out of semiconductors for a while.
Yes.
But I still remember that, you know, that's the field programmable grid arrays, right? So in theory, you can actually reprogram them. Is it a promising direction, or?
It definitely is, but I think this would be at the stage where you would prototype the solutions, you know?
Yeah.
Usually like you started with an FPGA, and then you go from there to ASIC or new form of mathematics that can be adaptable, you know, like on the go. So we want to have like systems that are kind of continual learning, systems that are actually like just evolve like as you actually run the progress, you know, and they can learn on the go, you know. So hopefully eventually down the line you're talking about efficiency and systems that are very adaptable implemented directly on the silicon. So any silicon that you get, there is a liquid foundation models already implemented on that, and compatibility.
So do I understand correctly that in the near future we might actually be developing like pharma ASICs, pharma silicon, where you would be able to run a liquid network on the actual chip?
Absolutely. That's the direction that we're taking, you know, going from the hardware layer, foundation model layer, and agentic or application layer. We are sitting at the foundation model layer. So we are getting ourselves so much closer, and we want to bring this efficiency of computation so much closer to the hardware, to the point that the hardware layer and the silicon layer and the software that actually comes with it, this general purpose software that comes with it, are one. So when that's one, then building a pharmaceutical kind of product on top of that, software product on top of that, would be seamless, you know. So you will be building on silicon.
All right, so we're working with the right partner here. And you think we can go cloud or even on device?
Our models, like, you know, like we are after the device foundation models market, right? We want to enable device for the 2 billion processors that are actually every year getting generated outside of data centers. You can bring liquid foundation model and host them on a toaster, and you can bring liquid foundation model, host them on a spaceship. So everything that is outside of kind of data centers, this is the space where Liquid AI is after. And the reasons, the byproducts of that is privacy, private deployment, sovereign deployment of AI, low cost deployment, and at the same time energy efficient kind of deployment.
So we'll be able to do drug discovery on Mars on a chip.
With Elon.
That will be super cool.